Welcome to another exciting episode of the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Brad Sugars, the Chairman and CEO of Action Coach, and today we're diving into the minds of some incredible business leaders, uncovering their real stories, strategies, and the secrets behind their victories. It's not just about success, it's about the journey, the hurdles, and turning challenges into opportunities. So let's jump right into it.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Epic Entrepreneurs powered by Action Coach. I'm your host today, Andy O'Brien, and I am here with Abhay Schweitzer. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. Pleasure to be here. Again, Abhay Schweitzer with Techne Architecture and Development, and we're out of San Diego.
Excellent, excellent. Love the city, love the state. So I understand you're working with the great coach, Carey Kauffman.
Yes, I've been coaching with Carey for a little over 10 years now.
That is amazing. Well, we'll get to her after a bit, but let's jump into your business. Let's talk about the top 3 things that have made you successful in business, and how can others follow in your footsteps?
That's a great question. There are more than 3 things, but I'll try to narrow it down to 3 that I think have made the biggest impact. I really have to say that coaching is one of them because it covers so many aspects, and it generally speaking, reduced the amount of mistakes we were going to make and optimized our time. After that, I really worked to implement within our company systems that could increase our efficiency and give everybody the best chance of spending the most time in things they are really good at and really qualified for. And then third, I think, has been our focus on particular niches of the market where we can bring the strongest parts of what we do. So we're always adding more value and finding projects that are the best match for our skill set as a company.
Excellent, excellent. So you don't say yes to everything.
No, I think saying yes to everything is kind of a trap because there are certain projects that just aren't a good match, and being able to recognize what's the best fit for your team and your company really will increase the chances of you being successful.
Was that a lesson you had to learn in business, learning to say no, or was that something that came natural to you?
It absolutely didn't come natural. I don't come from a background of a family of business owners or even a family of people who were financially successful. So when I got started, I didn't know how to play this game, right? I would take any project, and thankfully I built up some efficiencies myself where I could do things quickly where that worked, but that only worked as me as a single person running the company. That doesn't work in a scalable format. So the moment that I realized that I didn't want to be the one doing all the work, and I didn't want to be the one working 60, 70 hours a week like I used to, that meant that we had to scale as a team. And that team has a particular skill set and projects that we do better and worse at. But no, it wasn't easy at all. It was really hard to look at projects and say, oh, we could do it, but maybe our margins are going to be really tight, and say no to it and say, no, we just really we can't bring our best to this project. Once I changed that mentality, Andy, it helped make it a little bit easier for me. Instead of saying I'm recusing money, I look at it as really, we can't bring our best. So it's just not fair to the client or us that we do that project.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being so vulnerable. So when you look back, and let's just go back to the beginning, what made you decide to start your own firm?
I graduated in 2006. And then shortly after that, I moved to California. I used to live in Michigan. That's where I studied. But I knew right from the beginning that I wanted to have my own firm. But this wasn't a strong desire in the beginning, to be honest, right? As I worked for other firms in kind of a traditional employee role in architecture firms, I quickly realized that there wasn't much space for me to give my best for a variety of reasons that often exist in companies. The position is not right for it, or there isn't room for growth. And I felt a little bit stuck. And that got me to really realizing I want to have my own firm. I want to have control. I don't mind taking the risk and the responsibility that comes with that. And I was really excited, but I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And that led me to working a bunch of hours and figuring things out. And then it got to a point where I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to keep working 6 days a week, which is what I was working. 6 days a week is one day too many for me. And I knew I wanted something different. It happened that my wife went to one of Kerry Kaufman's kind of seminars for new clients. And she said, I'm not ready, but you should talk to my husband, right? So I met with Kerry, and she was taking me through the process. I said, Kerry, just skip to the end. You don't need to go through all the steps. Like, I'm ready. Like, this fruit is ready to be picked, right? I know what I don't like about what's going on. Let's just get to work right now. So that's a short version of how I started in business, and then how I eventually got to a point where I wasn't happy with, yet I didn't know how to make the change to get to where I wanted to be. And I thought coaching would be an invaluable tool to get me there, and it has been.
I love it. I love it. All right, so let's just look at this, and we don't like to dwell on these things, but in all this time, let's just get to how long have you owned your firm, sir?
Since 2010. So we're going on almost 14 years now by the end of the year.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so in this time, looking back at all the things that you have accomplished, what would you say has been your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome that for our listeners out here?
I think for me, the biggest challenge was when we added development to the scope of work that we do. We're first and foremost a traditional architecture firm. We do a variety of projects, right? And I got quite good at that, and we're really good at that. We're good at what we do. We have clients that are very loyal and excellent clients, but just similar to when I was an employee and I knew I wanted something different, I also realized that I didn't want to just do architecture in that scope. I wanted to control the projects. I wanted to invest in my own projects. I wanted to build my own projects. But that was a whole new skill set that I didn't have at all. And many times, I wanted to quit. It looked like an insurmountable hill to climb, right? When I first looked at it, because I didn't have any perspective of what it looked like halfway up the hill or all the way up the hill. And it took a lot of work from Kerry and myself as well to just do it. But like most things, it seems much more difficult before you actually do it, right? And then once you do it, you realize, wow, it's not as daunting as I thought. But looking back, before I had started, we're finishing a big project now, 14 homes. Before I had started this project, it looked like an insurmountable task to me. I was excited and I was confident I would do it, but I really had no idea how the hell I was going to get there. But I did. And now looking back, it doesn't seem. So the advice I would have for other business owners and entrepreneurs that are struggling with this is, you can only see what you see now, but know that, at least in my experience, in 100% of the cases, when you get done with whatever that challenging next step is, you'll look back and say it was not as difficult as I thought it would be.
Excellent. That is fabulous advice. And I think even doesn't matter what business you're in, including ours, you do have to look at that. You have to be open to, you don't even know what you don't know. So that was a great lesson to share with this. So when you look at this, so let's go back to when you said to your coach, hey, let's just skip to the end. I'm ready, right? So when you say that, like, obviously you come from, all right, so I have to ask, Michigan State?
Neither. I went to a smaller school. Neither, but I like both of those schools. One of my brothers went to Michigan State, so I'm more of a Spartan fan, but neither of those schools.
I love it. I love it. As a diehard Iowa Hawkeye fan, we have to all talk about what we like and what we don't like. But looking back at that statement about let's just skip to the end. So how did you personally have to grow, or what did you most have to learn to create your success?
I think for me, one of the biggest challenges was letting go of all the things that I was doing and trusting other people to do it. And it's something that I've heard from many other business owners too, right? So what happened in my case, and I think often happens to other business owners, is I was obsessed with efficiency. So even though I was the one doing these things, everything at one point, I was really efficient at everything. And that's a pretty high standard for you to measure other people that you're delegating portions of that work to. And for a long time, that was quite frustrating. Me realizing that I'm going to delegate this, I'm going to train other people, I'm going to bring them into my team. But in many cases, they're not going to do it as well as I learned how to do it out of necessity over these years. But overall, the team functions way better when I'm doing things where I can bring a lot more value than maybe things that I can do really well, but don't add a lot of value. And I struggled with that for a long time, Andy. Now I'm at peace with it, and I teach my team to do that so that more and more they can be in their zone. But I think it was a struggle for many years. Carrie helped me with it a lot. And I hear from a lot of business owners that they have the same struggle.
We do. That is a big thing that we hear. So when you say Carrie helped you, let's talk about that in the business coaching aspect. So first, how did she help you specifically with that challenge that took you years to overcome?
Well, as often is the case, we started with really pragmatic steps, right? First, we try to identify the clear problem, and she's fantastic at that. And then we always try to take some action before the next coaching session. And I remember the first action I took relating to this, Andy. And I came up with this book kind of with her help. I made a list that I called my hate to do list. Okay. This was an attempt to delegate things, right? And we didn't go into subcategories. It was just hate to do, right? And I made it, and I was obsessed with checking things off that list. Checking it off meant that I delegated it to somebody else, right? And that's how it started. And I still have that list somewhere. It's done. Now my list is a little bit more complex. Later, we learned to differentiate between things I love to do and I'm good at that take a lot of skill versus things I love to do that are really low skill. But at that time, it was simple. And I think that is really important. You have to encourage who you're coaching or the person receiving the coaching on what they can do now. And sometimes it's better not to complicate it. So keep it simple, but take a step in the right direction. And she helped me do that with this list. And it's been transformational. And whenever I share the story, I always see people taking notes and they want to do their own list. So it worked for me. And I think it can work with for a lot of other business owners and entrepreneurs.
Well, I love that. I absolutely love that. So let's talk about business coaching. So you talked about you being right, pick the fruit. So what would you say to others? What has coaching, big picture, done for you personally and your business?
Very early on in coaching, before I even started coaching with Carrie, I already had created the habit and the skills to do future planning for myself. And what I did is I brought that to the business in a way that I hadn't really done before. But what made a big difference for me, and she helped me with this, was to really understand and get clarity on the effect that I wanted my business to have in my personal life. Because often we just get stuck in the business. We have a revenue goal, or maybe we have a profit goal, maybe we have a growth goal, whatever it may be. But unless you're just living to do business, and most of us aren't, some people miss the connection of what is that doing to your personal life, your personal quality of life. And she really helped me get focused on that. And that has been transformational for me, really, because now I can tie the two together. My personal vision, short-term and long-term, and my business vision, and those two things align. And I have real clarity, Andy, on things that I will not sacrifice to do, which means that I won't sacrifice certain things in my personal life to get a little more growth out of the business or whatever, because ultimately, we're here to live and enjoy our lives. We're not here just to run a business. This was transformational for me.
That is wonderful. So earlier we talked about you've been in coaching for how long now?
More than 10 years now.
I absolutely love that. So the big question that people are going to ask is, why would you stay in coaching for 10 years with the explanation of what you just said of the results that you've had?
This is a great question. I mean, to me, it seems so simple, but I know that to a lot of people, it isn't. So I'll try to break it down as to how I see it, right? My business has been constantly evolving. And thankfully for me, it's not often that we encounter the same problems over and over after having solved them. We always have new challenges and you always have new opportunities. And some of this is by design for how I grew my business and what I intended to be. So it just doesn't make any sense to me that at some point I would say, well, I'm just going to stop coaching now because I know next month I'm going to have different challenges. I know the month after that I'm going to have different challenges. So how I look at it, Andy, is do I want to solve these by myself, or do I want to solve these with the help of a business coach? And 100% of the time, the response in my mind has been, there's more benefit for me to solve it with the help of a business coach than to try to figure out on my own and take more time and cause more headache and maybe even have more failures. That seems like a high price to pay with nothing to gain. And it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well said. All right. 2 more questions. Looking back, what would be the best advice you would go back and give your 25-year-old self?
25-year-old self. Well, I think to look even further ahead into, let me rephrase that. Sometimes it was difficult for me to be in the present and deal with the current challenges and think about what the business would look like 2-3 years from now. So what I would tell myself is to always set up my day, my year, my structure, so I could have some focus on both, because this gives more clarity on how you make business decisions when you have tough decisions to make. And we all do as business owners. You can look at that and make clear decisions with the present and the future in mind. And I think if I would have known that, or have the clarity that I have today when I was 25 years old, it would have been a lot easier. So that's what I would have told myself.
Excellent. All right. So last question, top piece of advice you would give another entrepreneur today.
Top piece of advice would be planning. This is something that I have found that most people really lack. And if you don't have a plan, somebody else has a plan for you. And like the great Jim Rohn said, guess what they have planned? Not much. So if you're running your day as an entrepreneur and all you're doing is reacting to things, there's a very small chance that your plan will get executed, that your priorities will be dealt with. And I dealt with this early in my career, and I am obsessed with controlling that now and having a schedule that works for me and keeping my priorities, but also having some flexibility to respond to these demands that are unpredictable. But you can't live like that. You cannot live being reactive. If you hope to control your future, if you hope that your business will have a positive impact in your life, and if you hope to enjoy working on your business.
Excellent. That is great advice. Well, thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. And I can't wait for others to hear your story and actually want to emulate and grow like you have. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. It's been my pleasure, Andy. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's epic conversation here on Epic Entrepreneurs. Huge thanks to our amazing guest for their pouring their heart into sharing their journey. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share it, or hit that bell. But until next time, let's make sure you keep dreaming, take massive action, and stay epic.